A father, once seen as a brilliant mind and devoted parent, descended into a darkness so consuming that it shattered every boundary of reason, leaving behind a story so disturbing, so psychologically tangled, that it continues to haunt investigators, jurors, and anyone who has ever heard the truth about what happened inside that isolated trailer in 2014. In 2014, the horrifying case of Timothy Jones Jr. became one of the most deeply disturbing and psychologically layered family tragedies in modern American true crime history. A case so complex that it continues to be studied by psychologists, investigators, legal scholars, and criminologists who still struggle to fully understand the series of failures, traumas, delusions, and systemic breakdowns that allowed 5 innocent children to slip through every possible safeguard and fall victim to a father whose mind had been quietly deteriorating for decades. Jones, born and raised in Mississippi, did not step into adulthood with a fair foundation. He grew up in a brutal environment filled with volatility, drug abuse, unpredictability, and a mother battling untreated schizophrenia. The instability of his early home life left an imprint on his developing brain, carving deep emotional scars that he carried into adolescence. At 15, he suffered a traumatic brain injury, an event that would permanently damage his frontal lobe, the area responsible for impulse control, emotional judgment, decision-making, empathy, and rational thought. Doctors later testified that this injury alone could have been enough to derail his emotional development, but when combined with childhood trauma, it created a dangerous mixture that no one around him recognized or addressed properly. Still, despite these internal fractures, Jones excelled academically. He had an impressive intellect, pursuing and earning degrees in computer science and engineering, securing a well-paying job, and presenting an outward appearance of stability and success. But intelligence does not heal emotional wounds or balance fractured mental health, and beneath the surface, he struggled with paranoia, religious rigidity, and the unresolved trauma of his upbringing. When he married Amber Kaiser, the relationship initially carried hope, and together they had 5 young children: Mira, Elias, Nathan, Gabriel, and Abigail. But as the family grew, Jones's mental state worsened. His strict Pentecostal beliefs turned into authoritarian control, shaping their home into a rigid environment governed by harsh rules, isolation from the outside world, and a constant demand for obedience. Amber eventually realized she could not survive in the environment he created, and their marriage deteriorated under the strain of his controlling behavior, emotional volatility, and increasing substance abuse. After the separation, Jones gained primary custody of all 5 children, a decision that would later be heavily scrutinized, especially as the family moved into a neglected, isolated trailer on a remote piece of land in South Carolina. The children, despite their young ages, were already showing signs of fear and emotional distress. Teachers, caregivers, and neighbors reported numerous concerns: unexplained bruises, signs of hunger, rigid discipline, emotional withdrawal, and visible anxiety. Reports were filed, social services intervened, and multiple welfare checks occurred, but the system failed to consistently follow up, monitor, or provide real intervention. The children remained under their father's control despite growing red flags, and the trailer, their last place of safety, became a pressure cooker of paranoia, delusion, exhaustion, and mounting psychological instability. By late August 2014, Jones's mental unraveling accelerated. According to his later statements, he began hearing voices, believing he was being conspired against, and interpreting normal childhood behavior as signs of rebellion or spiritual corruption. On the day of the tragedy, 6-year-old Nathan accidentally tripped the electrical system while plugging in a fan.
This small, innocent mistake ignited Jones's paranoia, and the punishment escalated far beyond reason, eventually leading to Nathan's death. This moment became the breaking point. Instead of seeking help or calling emergency services, Jones spiraled into a catastrophic mental collapse, interpreting the situation through a distorted lens of fear, delusion, and desperation. He later claimed he believed the remaining children were in danger, either from him, from the world, or from supernatural forces only he perceived. Over the next several hours, in a sequence of events so disturbing that even seasoned investigators struggled to comprehend it, Jones took the lives of the remaining 4 children. What followed was a frenzied, panic-driven attempt to escape consequences, rationalize his actions, and flee from the reality of what he had done. He loaded the children's bodies into his SUV, wrapped in garbage bags, and drove across multiple states while using synthetic drugs, listening to voices, and searching the internet for ways to dispose of evidence. For 9 days, he traveled aimlessly through South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Mississippi, stopping at gas stations, stores, and isolated back roads, his mind trapped in a storm of paranoia and denial. The smell of decomposition eventually led a Mississippi officer to stop his vehicle during a routine checkpoint. The moment the patrol officer approached the SUV, he sensed something was terribly wrong. When the rear door was opened, the horrific truth was revealed. Jones was taken into custody immediately, and during interrogation, he confessed in a chillingly calm and detailed manner, speaking of voices, delusions, and fears that the children were better off in heaven. His statements raised immediate questions about his sanity, responsibility, and state of mind. In the months that followed, psychologists, psychiatrists, neurologists, and forensic experts debated whether Jones was legally insane or whether he acted with full awareness of the consequences. On one side, defense experts argued that his traumatic brain injury, family history of mental illness, substance abuse, and delusions indicated a severe psychotic break. On the other side, prosecutors pointed to his calculated post-crime behavior, hiding bodies, fleeing across states, avoiding police, using drugs, researching disposal methods as evidence that he understood right from wrong and therefore bore full responsibility. The trial became a complex examination of mental illness within the criminal justice system, exposing the challenges in determining competency amid overlapping diagnoses like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder, and personality disorders. The courtroom was filled with emotional testimony, teachers who had reported bruises, neighbors who had witnessed neglect, Amber Kaiser, who spoke of her struggles and heartbreak, and expert witnesses who debated the limits of psychosis and clarity. Jurors listened in silence as the layers of the case unfolded, layers of trauma, fear, love, psychological decay, systemic breakdowns, and 5 small children whose lives were shaped by forces far beyond their control. Despite the passionate arguments made by mental health experts, the jury ultimately concluded that Jones possessed enough awareness and intent to be held fully accountable. In June 2019, after one of the quickest deliberations in a case of such magnitude, the jury sentenced him to death. Their decision reflected not only the gravity of the crime, but also the overwhelming belief that even in the presence of mental illness, some actions remain impossible to excuse. Today, this case stands as a powerful reminder of how childhood trauma, untreated mental illness, isolation, and systemic failure can intertwine in catastrophic ways. It highlights the critical need for accessible mental health care, stronger oversight in child welfare cases, and community support systems capable of identifying warning signs before tragedy occurs. It forces society to confront uncomfortable truths about how people slip through cracks, children, parents, and even those who perpetrate unimaginable acts. Most of all, it preserves the memory of 5 children whose lives were marked by love, fear, hope, and innocence, children who trusted a father who was too broken to protect them. Their story lingers in the minds of all who study this case, not because it is sensational, but because it is profoundly tragic, preventable, and reflective of failures at every level, failures that must never be repeated.
If you're still here watching, thank you. Before you go, please subscribe to our channel, Dark Frame Stories, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another real-life mystery like this.